At the very beginning, you said you thought that sexism and misogyny may have played a role in Hillary Clinton's defeat. And I think there's no question that a lot of things were said in this campaign that many people deemed as sexist and misogynist. But what evidence do you have that voters made their decisions based on sexism or misogyny?
Well, look, I think I think a couple of things, right? Number one, I think one of the things we never really had a conversation about that, again, I think going forward we should talk about is how this country, how people feel about women in power. There is a reason that it is so hard for women, that we haven't had a female president before, and that it's harder for women candidates in executive positions. There are a lot of dynamics around that. So I guess I would say I would offer that as, some evidence, and I think there's a lot of good research on that. I certainly think that there was the narrative about Hillary and the sort of very ugly signs that I can't actually repeat the words that were said about Hillary. And the sort of sentiment and the chants, I think, contributed to a narrative about her as someone who is untrustworthy, even in places where that just wasn't true. There just wasn't evidence to bear that fact out. And I'll be really honest, and some of my colleagues won't like this, but I think, look, even in the primary, some of what we saw with the Bernie bros had a real chilling effect on a lot of women, and young women in particular. We learned about during the primary, there were a number of these secret Facebook groups of young progressive women who were supporting Hillary, but frankly, they didn't want to deal with the backlash online from some of the Bernie bros. So again, I think, there's a lot of pieces to sort of tease out in this conversation.
A couple things. I mean, on the foundation bit, and there's nothing to argue on it, but we did cover very extensively. I mean, the Trump campaign didn't like how much that we talked about the Trump Foundation. I mean, that was extensively covered. I just want to point that out, because I know that you know that. But when it comes to Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, did you guys underestimate Donald Trump, do you think?
I think that's hard to say. Again, I think one of the other pieces that we're going to have to learn about what happened here is, did everybody underestimate what was going on in the electorate? I mean, again, I think the fact that it was so close suggests that we didn't see a significant, massive realignment, but I think it shows that, we are a closely divided country. That's something we know, and that we are a country that is undergoing a tremendous moment of turmoil and change. And so I think...
But Karen, I think the question is, what we haven't heard in our conversation yet is, where do you see that the Clinton campaign got it wrong?
Well, look, again, I think that, I think there are any number of places where we may have made, a decision that didn't turn out the way we wanted it to. But again, I think there were a lot of factors contributing to that. Could we have done more, spent more, or done more around the African-American vote and the Latino vote? Potentially, although if you take a look at the numbers, Hillary was pretty close on target in a lot of key places on those numbers.